We are back with the 2000 Honda Insight IMA Hybrid, and in this video we're going to do a whole bunch of further diagnostics, trying to figure out why it's, shutting down the computer on me, why it's blinking the green immobilizer key, and it feels like the engine is literally turning off. Okay, and we'd go on a big long adventure with coil packs, spark plugs, more corrosion on fuses on the inside, all sorts of things. But the secret, the solution, I finally found it. I revisit the relays, the PGM-FI relay and the fuel pump relay. So all these different things that we work on, there will be chapters below the video, so you can jump around if you need to, because it might get a bit long. But I mean, we got it. We got them. Okay. The relay, I mean, it's something that I read about being a problem for other Hondas before I started doing any of this. But I tested the relay, and it comes on, and it has good connectivity, zero resistance with my multimeter testing it. So I just sort of like, it could be, but let's just keep going with other stuff. And so everything we've done has had some improvement on how the thing runs, but none of it was the magic bullet for why it felt like the computer was resetting mid-driving. And again, the evidence for it resetting was that I have put in a Immobilizer bypass chip, and its control of the Immobilizer light on the dash, all it is when it gets power, it turns on for a couple seconds and it goes away. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And so using that blinky light as a clue is why I was convinced that we were having power problems to the ECM. And so anyways, these relays, there's two sides to a relay. There's one side with a whole bunch of windings. It's like a little electromagnet, and when you complete that circuit, it pulls up a contact, and then it makes a contact, so you have power going through the other side of the relay. And what I think we had happening is that the connection of the contacts that move had gotten so poor that it was having high resistance and generating a lot of heat, and maybe enough heat that it was interfering with the relay's ability to maintain connection, and maybe just enough voltage drop across that high resistance area that the computer would shut down and restart. And so I sand contacts, and it seems to all be good. But the deal is, this video is not going to be all this conclusive because the new parts haven't showed up yet. I ordered it from Majestic Honda because it was the best price I could get, and I don't think they've even shipped it 5 days later. They're slow, so we're waiting on that. But there'll be a whole video on that. But anyways, we got it, boys. So I'm just gonna make you suffer through, my process of being extra thorough and cheap and going through things system by system again. So good luck. Enjoy. What we're going to get into today is the ignition coils. So I bought one, used, Denso Hitachi coil off of eBay that looked in really good shape, and I swapped it out for various ones, and I got the car to run better by removing this one, but the problem still persists. Now on eBay, I bought the super cheap ones, the $45 for 3 ignition coils set. And this is actually, it gets great reviews on the Facebook page for the North American First Generation Insight Owners group. I mean, these are $15 each, and people have ran them for years with no problems and no effect on their fuel economy. So I'm just going to install these today. I got the new ones in, and here's the 3 original ones that came with the car I bought. Here's one which I bought off of eBay. It's used, but it's much newer, and I think you can tell the age by the color of the rubber boot. I mean, how things change. Like this one, when I got rid of it, and the car runs better, but still has a miss every now and again. It has a lot of I don't know, deep browns and some little stains in certain places. This second oldest one, it's whatever, you know, I guess it's old too. And then this one, which has some fairly good like rust problems, you know, the steel stack of plates here is separating. Ooh, I just got a bug in my mouth. And then this one here, you know, which looks practically new. You know, it's bright red. So I think the deterioration of the color in the boot, you can tell how old they are. You know, that's my theory. I was reading about how these work, and it's interesting. Basically, you have a electromagnet with two windings, because it turns out back in like the 1910s or something, they found that if you induce an electric field through electromagnet, and then you cut the power to the electric field, that magnetic field collapses and it turns back into electricity. So they have one side which is wound to make the magnetic field, and then they have like another side which, you know, comes out through the tip of the spark plug, which is wound, you know, 100 times more windings than the inducing one. And so when that field collapses, then that magnetic field turns to electricity, and it pow shoots a spark down. It does it like a transformer, so it'll turn 12 volts into whatever, tens of thousands of volts or something. So in theory, you can, you know, measure the resistance of those paths and see if they're within spec. Maybe we can try that later. But for now, I just need a test drive. I got my 3 new coils in there, and it'd just be nice to know if that solves it on its own. Alright, we're going to enter the realm of cuckoo bananas, and I'm going to install the cheapest copper spark plugs I could find into my Insight. So here's one observation. So these really cheap ignition coils they're still getting that little, you know, misfire, but it's much more rare, right? I drove 65 miles and I had 3 of them, versus, you know, driving a few miles and having dozens, and it's still getting worse when it gets hot. And you know, I don't have a thermal, you know, optical temperature gauge or anything, but just feeling the different coils, you know, 2 of them always get hot enough that they burn you, and one of them doesn't. It's hot to the touch, but it doesn't, you know, make pain sensors flicker on and off. So anyways, my thought is that we got a spark plug issue, and that these old spark plugs, even though they gapped out nice like they're practically new, that maybe they have high resistance, or a couple of them, or just one of them has high resistance, and we're having trouble driving it, and that could have something to do with the temperature difference of the ignition coils. But anyways, copper, it's well known as a great spark plug because it has the lowest resistance necessary, and so you don't have to have as much you know, power from your coil to jump that gap and get a spark. And that's why in cars that are designed to use copper spark plugs, you put iridium tip spark plugs in, and it can't drive the spark plugs properly. You can get all sorts of issues, misfires, backfires, just some crazy stuff. So anyways, I'm gonna try this. I'm just gonna pretend, you know, just to see if they index or not. So, you know, the opening of the spark plug is supposed to face to, you know, there's 4 valves, 2 exhausts, 2 intakes. For each cylinder, it's supposed to face towards the you know, the right hand side if you're looking from the front of the car valve, is what it looks like they're saying on Insight Central. So I'm just gonna, you know, with that lined up there, I'm just gonna, you know, make a line somewhere like that and see where we end up at, see if we're pointing the opening to the right place or not. Alright, got a little bit of anti-seize here. I didn't spread it around too much, but we'll just see what it does. Okay. So we're at 10 Newton meters. Still at 10 Newton meters. So that's where it like should be. But if we keep going to specified torque, we're going to get a little bit past that. Not that this thing's all that accurate. So that's about 15 Newton meters. I think they said 17 Newton meters is what you're shooting for. So that is more or less indexed. It's a little loose. 10. 15, pointing towards the wrong valve. So, you know, somewhere like this. So finally, this last one, let's take it to, you know, where it's finished. Finger tight-ish. All right, so that's the finger tight-ish. Let's put a little bit of force on it. So we're at 10, 15, 17, 18, 20. So I'd call that one properly indexed. Let's go back to this one, get it tight enough. So now that one's pointing this way, this one's pointing this way, and that one's proper. So I guess with enough spark plugs in hand, you could index anything. All right, so the copper plugs, it's not running real good with copper plugs in there, but what it has done is it has made it more like a repeatable problem. So I was looking around, I was monitoring the voltage, and what I've noticed is that you know, the ECM has some control over the DC to DC converter, and the DC to DC converter is what charges the 12 volt system, right? And what I've noticed is when the ECM turns off the DC to DC converter, the battery voltage will go down. You know, it trickles down to about 12, which is really low, and then it goes into this state where it starts going 12, 11.9, 12, 11.9, and the voltage just bounces back and forth around there. And then that's the condition where when I accelerate, I get the green light flash and the engine goes bleh. And because, you know, with these copper plugs in there, there's a little bit less power in the engine, and it feels more like a dog. It's helping me make that problem more repeatable. All right, so I don't have a proper OBD2 scan tool, but I did borrow this from my dad. It's an Elm 327. It just links to your cell phone. You use the app on it. All right, so we are monitoring the OBD volts. That's a separate line than what the fuel pump and the immobilizer circuit are on, but it'll show us what we're working with, right? So I'm going to drive around, warm up, and when I get into the conditions where we're at the 12 volts, we'll see what we can find. Come on, give me that 11.9 I had yesterday. There it is. I had a miss. And see how it went from, oh, another one. So the voltage peaked down, and then it missed, and then the voltage jumped back up. And so I think that is the clue I'm looking for what's happening. That one happened at 13. I think the problem is the voltage is going too low, and maybe it's a relay, maybe it's a fuel pump clogged up, maybe it's something like that. Can we do it again? It's not the easiest thing to repeat, but when it happens, it happens. So we're at 12.1 volts, 12. Come on. Oh, it jumped. So, anyways, that's my theory, and there is a way to fix this. Mutter has a video on it on one of his YouTube channels, and basically you just disconnect one wire and it makes the DC to DC converter work just like an alternator. So that could fix my little misfire. Okay, so my engine just shut off. We had a big dip, and oh god, I'm gonna crash trying to do all this. Anyway, I need to reset the engine. All right, there we go, we're running again. But we had a big dip in voltage, and then the ignition system shut off, and then it popped back up to 14. So now we're here. We're going a little slow for fifth. Actually, we're going a little slow. We just had a big loss of power. That happens sometimes after one of these misfires. It just seems to lose all its guts. It was running great. Now it's running like a dog. And there's another misfire. Low voltage went up. I wonder if it's the fuel pump. I really think maybe the fuel pump is struggling, sucking a few too many amps. Again, just had another spike. Engine lost power. I mean, something's shutting off while we're driving. All right, engine lost power again. That was a miss without the green light flashing. Is it just my fuel pump going out? Do I need a fuel pump? This is some Harbor Freight fuel pressure tester. And its gauge goes up to the appropriate number. The service manual says 40 to 47 PSI is what this thing runs. It has means of testing in line, so that's what we're gonna do. If you kill the vacuum, it looks like you can get the pressures you're supposed to see. So let's just try taking this. So with no fuel regulation, no fuel pressure regulation, we're up to where it wants to be. So I don't think you want 40 to 47 PSI idling. But if you have, you know, within spec fuel pressure, see how much longer it takes to come down. So I think we got good fuel pressure. All right, so what I'm about to do is unplug the vacuum line from the fuel pressure regulator, watch the fuel pressure go up, and then look at the air fuel trim and see what happens. And so here's my best explanation of what we're going to experiment with. Is the air fuel mixture is a stoichiometric ratio, and that means the ideal air to fuel ratio to burn all the fuel with no excess air, which is 14.7 parts air to every 1 part fuel. Okay, and our cars have a lean burn mode where if the conditions are right, it will go into lean burn, and some people have said they've measured it, scanning the computer, up to 24 parts air to 1 part fuel, but that's not what we're messing with right now. So the fuel trim, the short-term fuel trim, is controlled by the wideband upstream sensor above the catalytic converter, and then the downstream O2 sensor, it more or less verifies that the stoichiometric ratio is good post converter, and it has more to do with emissions. But our fuel trims are controlled by the top O2 sensor, the expensive one, with 5 or 6 wires, whatever comes off of it, right? And so the voltage that they typically look for is 0.45 volts. That's the stoichiometric ratio. So as you go into a rich condition, this voltage number goes up a bit, and as you go to a lean condition, the voltage goes down a little bit. And so our O2 sensors controlling fuel trim are trying to maintain somewhere around 0.45 or 5 volts, right? And then the fuel trim has 3 layers of control. You have what the ECM is programmed to do, which is ballpark figures. Then you have the data coming back from the wideband sensor, which is the short-term trend. And if the short-term trend persists long enough, it'll move those numbers to the long-term trend, which is sitting on top of the ECM's programming. The long-term trend, positive or negative, sits there, and then this continues to function in the short term, making further adjustments. And so if you're running lean for a while and it's trying to richen it up, it'll move those positive fuel trim numbers to the long-term trend, and then keep adjusting slightly the short-term trend. And then when it's been long enough, then those numbers move down here. And so it's an elegant system of controlling, you know, how long the injectors stay open with the pulse width of the signal going to the injectors. But anyways, we're going to demonstrate this even though I have a bad O2 sensor. So what we're looking at here is the short-term and long-term fuel trim. But let's just see what happens to these numbers when I increase the fuel pressure. It's trying real hard to adjust for extra fuel. See, the short term went up to 7, -7. So as the voltage goes up, that indicates rich on the oxygen sensor, and then the fuel trim compensates by bringing down the voltage. And instead of short term and long term, let's go straight to the sensors. Let's do sensor 1 and sensor 2, fuel trim. Just chilling. They're identical. They're showing, you know, just whatever. So see the O2 sensor 1, it kind of lags behind the data from the O2 sensor 2. So the sensor 1, the upstream sensor, is the one that's throwing the code for me, and I think it finds the right numbers. It just is lagging to get there. I think that's how I interpret it. So anyways, we're chilling at you know, near 0.78. And so if we increase the fuel pressure by taking the vacuum line off, see, it starts compensating, bringing, you know, it's trying to bring it back down to normal by going into the negative percentages for fuel trim. So that means that it runs rich at 40 psi at idle. So I think that's evidence enough that my fuel pressure regulator is working completely fine. And then when you you know, put it back the way it's supposed to go, these numbers, once it gets through that load of gas, see, now it says it's rich and it's trying to bring it back down. No, it says it's lean, it's trying to bring it back up, I guess. And they should settle down about that 0.79 again. So we're bringing the data down at 1.5% positive, and now we're at that 0.78. But look, the fuel trims both went to 0. That means that we're running real good right now. 0 is what you want to see. But if your trim can be 0, that means it's running exactly how it wants it to run. But, you know, with a bad O2 sensor, take it with a grain of salt, right? You know, it's set 5 or 10 minutes. The fuel pressure just stays at that 30, the idling pressure. It doesn't bleed down or anything. So whatever little check valves are in the fuel lines, that's all good. I guess I got a couple options. I can drive around again and wait for one of those events where the engine shuts off and read the, you know, O2 data or whatever. See if those voltages crash to 0 because it's not detecting anything. Or I could just do the DC to DC modification where you make it run 14 volts all the time. That's just, you know, you got to get into the IMA bay, but just disconnect one wire, and then the DC to DC converter works like an alternator, and that'll keep the voltages up high and probably smooth everything out for me, hopefully. It doesn't really fix the problem, because if you think about it, they designed it to run that way. They all work that way unless there's something wrong. So whatever's wrong would still be wrong, and that could just be a fuel filter issue. Just be a fuel filter issue. The deal is, best I can tell, is the only fuel filtering happening on this car is inside the tank. It's got the screen on the bottom of the pump, and then the pump goes into some sort of canister, and it looks like that canister has a membrane, but that canister, I think, has been discontinued for a long time. I'm not sure if you can find one. You know, all the fuel pump replacements I've looked at, it looks like there's no filter besides a screen, and then some guys on Insight Central have added inline fuel filters, you know, just to make up for after they have to swap these out. So anyway, it's got a couple options. I'm gonna see if I can catch it dying again and see what's happening with the O2 sensors. All right, so I just did a test drive. I came back. We are in auto stop right now. So anyways, in auto stop, you can see way down there, we have, you know, on sensor 2, 0-ish volts. On sensor 1, you know, half a volt, or 0.46 volts. So, you know, sensor 1 is the code that I'm getting. It's bad. So that reading should probably be 0 also. I don't really know, since I haven't seen a good one working. You know, but I did capture from driving a couple events. So here's the first one I captured. You know, the numbers down here correlate here, but this, both O2 sensors dropped to 0. And then here's a couple more events. Both sensors dropped to 0. So, and then it spikes back up out of range. You know, see up here above 1 volt. The O2 sensors, they go from maybe 0.1 to 0.9 or something typically, down to 0 on occasion. Well, I don't really know. Maybe 0 to 1 is their reference range. So anyways, we're seeing voltages go to 0. So what's that mean? You know, the correlation is this happens when the voltage is down to 12 or 11.9. So what we have is probably a relay turning off from low voltage, I'm thinking. and it's just shutting off all this data. You know, when you're coasting downhill, at least in my car, this the sensor 2 will go to 0 when you're coasting, and your fuel economy meter pings out at 150. It goes down to 0. When you're at an auto stop, it goes down to 0. So let's just go back to see what this is reading. You know, so yeah, I think it's the low voltage is maybe tripping a relay for a second and just shutting everything down. That you know, the fuel pump relay, and then the what is that, the PGM-FI relay. When they're new, can they handle being 12 volts or below? Should I spend, you know, $100 on relays? Try to fix this problem? Or could I just save my money for the O2 sensor and you know, pull this wire out the back and fix the problem? I am jumping to conclusions a bit, like I'm going to fix it with this, but we'll figure that out briefly. But you know, I'm sort of surprised that I'm even able to keep coming up with ideas on how to fix this thing, because it's been such a pain in the butt. So I might just be off in, you know, goofy imagination land figuring out how to do this. Well, let's hop back here and you know, turn this DC to DC converter into a more alternator-like battery charger. All right, so here's a post from Mutter from 2016. Howdy folks, here's a video showing a quick simple modification that prevents the ECM from controlling whether the DC to DC charging the 12 volt battery. And then right below it, so yeah, there's a picture that someone else posted of the wire. And right below it, yeah, kind sir, you are a wizard. I feel the same way. Right here, I think this is a poor decision by Honda to have the DC to DC turn on and off. And then he says, sorry to be so ignate, but what will this do for me? Or what will it prevent? Mutter's not totally sure back in 2016 of what the possible problems could be. So he just says the DC to DC maintains a 12 volt battery, fairly low state of charge. This isn't great for the battery, and it doesn't leave much room for capacity if you need it. Headlights on, listen to radio, whatever. What this behavior does is to save a small amount of power not used to float charge the 12 volt. So if this works, maybe we'll finally answer the question, what does this modification do for me? Me. Maybe it fixes my little misfire where the immobilizer light flashes. Let's see. All right, so we're in my IMA bay again. And it's this plug right here. I have the IMA turned off right now just for safety. What if I can just unplug it right now? So that's the plug, and that's the wire, the green and white wire in this top corner right here. It's this wire right here. It's got a green stripe and a white body on that top corner wire. Boom. So this is hard enough to do that I don't think I could show it on camera. But basically, this little section here will open up and it will release them halfway. And then on the inside, there's like a little tab that you pull back and then it will release this clip. So I'm just gonna click that back in. I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna wrap it in electrical tape to protect the connector. Just wrap this up a bit so it doesn't contact anything. Then I'm gonna fold it over and hold it in place here. And that should, you know, just in case it contacts anything, that'll prevent that. Okay, so there's that. This plug goes right in there. Right in there without any confusion. There we are. And then we'll put our little styrofoam back on here. So I have a lot of faith in the wizardry of mutter. So let's just put it back together before we even test it. This baby back together. Believe in the system. In mutter we trust. Insight Central has a surprisingly high amount of really smart people on it. And the question I have is it smart people attracted to this platform, or does this platform make you smart? What, by buying this, am I an MIT graduate who can reverse engineer anything? I don't know, but maybe. Because, you know, I was on the Facebook page for North American Insight, and someone was like, isn't it amazing that our like 20-year-old shit boxes are still better than most of the hybrids coming out today? And that is kind of amazing. And so there's a smug factor that comes with loving your little $700 shit box that really can outperform almost everything. And so couple that with the extra intellect that comes from owning the shit box. Feeling pretty smug right now. But you know, I have a problem with I get a little too confident when I'm about to fix something. I don't think I'm fixing shit. So do you think the DC to DC converter fixed my problem? Nope. So joke's on you guys. We're only halfway through this video. Better buckle up and hold on for the next half of this ride. But we're getting closer. We're almost there. Alright, I couldn't quit. Not yet. But anyways, I got the under the dash thing loose and I was looking at it. And these clips down here, so there's a ground strap that I can clean up. And then there's, you know, this plug here that I can clean up. But I think most of that's body stuff. And then these clips, they're not like the big plugs. They're actually like retaining clips, and the wire goes directly over here. One thing I have noticed is that each and every one of these fuses is a gross color, right? And you rub it off. It doesn't feel greasy. I don't know if that's corrosion. It doesn't feel like dielectric grease or anything. So anyways, see how they clean up like that? So maybe there's a connectivity problem under here. All right, here's all the fuses. So some of them are particularly bad, like that end right there. Here's one I cleaned with this brush. Here's one I cleaned with this spray. But, you know, if you can brush it better down here like this. But, you know, a little bit of brushing will get that corrosion right off. So I guess I'll just knock all this off and do the rest. But let's just have a side-by-side comparison. So every single under the dash fuse is this color. I've never seen that before, so I doubt that means it's some sort of protective coating, but maybe it is. Maybe it's an anti-corrosion coating, but I've never seen that. You know, I've swapped a fair amount of fuses in my day. So I'm gonna go back in with all these original fuses because I don't want to go buy a fuse set, but I'm gonna scrub them all. But I cleaned the relays, connections, the big gray relay that has like 4 clips on it. Looks like you're not supposed to take it out. I didn't mess with it because it was so well secured I couldn't get it out, so I just assumed, yeah, leave well enough alone. The only place I found that black tarnish stuff was on the fuses. All the relays, they were fine. So I don't know if that's going to change the situation or not. I think I'm going to go buy maybe like 4 feet of fuel line and mount my little fuel gauge where it's like leaning on the windshield so I can watch what happens when I drive it. Because that'd be a good clue. I'd like to know what's going on with that. So I'm going to use some tape right here just to keep the hood up. Make sure I don't smash the fuel lines. Those are fairly free. Hey, that's kind of nice. Okay, well, I don't know. We've gone 26 miles without an incident. That's longer than the other circuit I was doing to provoke one. Doesn't mean we're not going to have one, because I have had times where I've gone 50 miles without a miss. But so far, so good. One interesting thing is, like, you floor it, the fuel pressure goes up, you let off and you coast, there it is. So when you pull a good strong vacuum, you can actually get lower than 30 psi. Just, you know, interesting note. Okay, we just had an incident. Green key light is on. We're losing power, but we got fuel pressure. So it's got nothing to do with the fuel. So I'm going to go ahead and re-engage the engine. All right, there we are. We're running again. Good God. Okay, so something shut off at 210,101 miles. That's 36 miles of driving. The ignition shut off and the green light came on. I'm running out of ideas, dudes. I really thought I had it. I really thought that I had it this time. That drive was going very good. All right, so I just pulled the PGM-FI relay out. I've been avoiding these, messing with these relays too much, just because they're kind of expensive and they seem to work. You know, how many videos ago I you know, tested, you know, they click, and then I'd put power to them, and then I tested the resistance over here and I didn't find any. But I have noticed that they get kind of hot, so maybe the contacts inside are having a little bit of issue, maybe some resistance and heat buildup. I don't really know what temperature these run at normally, but there is such thing as contact cleaning, so we could do that. It's something that a lot of like radio and amplifier enthusiasts do on their antique equipment. They clean the contacts, and so let's just open them up, see how bad they look. All right, so opening these up is actually pretty easy. So here's one I have opened. I just took a knife like this. I don't know what this is. Stick it in this little crack, get it down in there far enough, and then loosen the edge. Let's try this side. Oops, pop that side back in. I say it's easy. All right, let me hold that side up. The other one came out easier for me. There, got both sides loose. Now we can pull the guts out. So this relay here with the scratches on it, that was originally the fuel pump relay under the hood, and I moved it into the PGM-FI spot. If we pull it out, there's some discoloration on the windings. This one, which I pulled out from the fuel pump, but was originally the PGM-FI, it's it hasn't had the discoloration, so it hasn't been, I don't know, the windings are looking burnt on this one is all I'm saying. But these the contacts are right in here. Let me just see if they feel rough. They're so small I can't really see them. So there's a procedure for cleaning these where it requires, they say use a contact cleaner and glossy paper. So let's just see if cleaning them that way will work. I do think what I'm going to do though, I think I'll put this one that looks burned, you know, where the windings are discolored, I think I'll put that back in as a fuel pump because it's so much easier to get to. You don't have to crawl underneath the dash. So of course, alternative to cleaning a relay and getting bad results, you could just buy a new one. Here we are at the control unit for the cabin, part number 4, where it plugs in the PGM-FI relay, same thing as the fuel pump relay. Come down here to number 4, and was at the SKU 39794 S2K003, and they're only, you know, $34.66 from Majestic, so you know that's an option. Alright, so it looks like you can get pretty good results with a certain number of folds. So if it's in there, so this one I'm going to fold it once, put a filler in there, fold it again, and then that much paper seems to fit in there pretty good. So let's soak this. Oops, a little more soak than I wanted. And then we can drive that in there pretty tight, and we get, you know, some crud off of it. So that appears to be as close as I can get. It looks like there's a little bit of crud, but not much on these contacts where they've been connecting. I see a little dot, maybe. I don't have a way of zooming in real close, but it really kind of looks to me like there's a dot of crud right there where it's been making deposits from the arc. You could sand this a little bit. If you had a really fine sandpaper or file, you get a real nice polished finish on there. Well, I got some 1000 actually. That's the finest I have. It feels pretty good. I wish I had 1500 now that I think about it, because I'm going to go for it. Yeah, but this is the finest I have. I think they make sandpaper like 3000 grit and all sorts of stuff. So I'm just going to take a piece of this. This is a wet dry sandpaper. Maybe it will, let's see how that fits in there real quick. Oh yeah, so I might be ruining the coating on the contacts. You know, I was reading about the coatings. They got like nickel silver and nickel cadmium and all sorts of coatings on here, trying to prevent destruction and prolong the life of these things. So whatever. Let's one more time with the cleaning. Gentle, gentle. Now that we sanded it, let's see what we get off. Got a lot more crud off now that we've sanded it. Alright, so if this doesn't work, the relays don't work, my last idea is just disconnecting the Immobilizer receiver unit, unplugging it, because it gets its power from the same yellow and black wire that powers both the fuel cutoff relay and the PGM-FI relay. And then that's the same power source that goes to the ECM. So I don't know if these Immobilizer receiver units like can short out and cause problems, but maybe. Well, I still got the fuel pressure tester hooked up just because if it was going to make a difference anywhere with these relays, maybe the fuel pump would work better, since the power for the fuel pump goes through 2 relays. But yeah, probably not, right? Look at this. We're at 32 psi idling. Previously we were at 30. All right, jumping in to clarify just a little point of confusion because of how I filmed this thing. Yes, when I first hooked up the fuel pressure gauge, I had 32 at idle, 42, no vacuum. But I left. This video took place over several days, and I left the gauge on the whole time. I was just watching it. I got tired of driving aimlessly. I started doing Uber Eats delivery and trying to make money while I test it. And the vast majority of the time I drove it, I had 30 psi at idle, 40 psi, no vacuum. And when you're driving a lot and it's actually warmed up, if that video where we're driving with the gauge wasn't so shaky, you could see that was 30 and 40. So what I'm about to say of how we've gained fuel pressure back, I guess it could just be an anomaly like the first time we tested, but it really did, I've been driving for days with 30 and 40. Trust me on that. Sorry for the confusion there. And then if I disconnect the vacuum line, let me block that off, we're at 42 psi. So we're up 2 psi across the board by cleaning the contacts inside the relay. I mean, that's an actual measurable difference in performance here. All right, well, I got some new fuel injection fuel line. I guess I'll install this. But it's running pretty good. I mean, it's not like a sports car all of a sudden, but going around a 90-degree turn where you typically downshift in the second, I had been taking those really fast because if I put it in the second at 15 miles an hour or below, it just couldn't pull through it, and I'd have to downshift in the first. And now, I could hit one at 12, 13, 14 miles an hour, put it in second, and it pulls up to 20 pretty quick. So it's running a lot better. Haven't driven it enough to know that this is the absolute fix to my absolute problem, but it's done a lot of good. All this cleaning, all this contact cleaning, from wiring harness to fuses to relays, has made a big difference in performance, and that's very exciting, really exciting. Now I'm going to try one more experiment alongside just seeing if this has fixed my Immobilizer light misfire problem. I'm going to go ahead and clear the code for the O2 sensor, because an observation I've made is that the O2 code doesn't seem to set itself until I've had a series of misfires or engine shut-off events. So maybe the appropriate voltage is going to get to it now. So I'm just going to reset it with OBD2 and the cell phone thing. All right, well, I'm at the bank and I'm going to deposit some money. I had a great weekend. I did like 2 small plumbing repairs and then a big yard cleanup for a real estate agent, and I made $600. Or actually, I made more. I've been spending on it already, but I'm going to deposit this money and dump it into the car because I really want those shocks. I want those springs. I still need new tires on the back. The O2 sensor, though, I'm confused about that because it just cleared the code. It turned itself off like today. It'd been on for 3 or 4 days. The cell light, and every time I read it, it was the sensor 1 O2 sensor, the expensive one, and it just turned itself off. So I'm not going to buy that just yet. I'm going to see if it changes, if the situation changes. But dude, I'm excited because I am tired of bottoming out every bump I hit. I'm on hybrid revolt here, and let's just go down here to Honda hybrids, and then we'll go over here to the Insight, the only hybrid that matters. And look at all these great products that they have. So I've gone ahead and I've put these 2 things in my shopping cart. I'm going to get the Gasmatic rear shocks. I got that money burning a hole in my bank account, I guess. And I'm going to get these upgraded springs too. A lot of people swear by these springs and these shocks. And it'd just be great having a nice running car again.
And look at that. As easy as this. It says orders typically ship within 2 business days of payment. Man, that is so exciting. You know, I have one, actually I had a couple hybrid revolt used sticks in my old pack that were still good, even though, you know, so many of those sticks were plugged in backwards. I mean, they survived. So I think they might have some pretty good test procedures for used sticks in the remanufactured stuff.
Let's see if, what gear am I in? I'm in third. There it is. Let's see if we can cause a failure on one of the steeper hills. Oops, I'm going too fast. Let me slow down. This is one of the steepest hills I can find. So we're going 9 miles an hour in first. Let's shift to second and just try to lug through this thing. See if we can get that relay to pop. Damn it. But look how it's accelerated up a steep hill. I mean, this is like the steepest in town. I wonder if the check engine light going off and the relay not depolarizing and clicking off or whatever it's called is why it's running better. I'm really confused why I can't cause this fault right now. Could have been pretty reliable for 3 days that taxing the engine could cause the light to flash.
Oh man, so I'm just super excited. I'm so glad that I've found something wrong, you know, and so I got parts on the way. I got the rear suspension on the way. I got the PGM-FI relay on the way, and I feel extra good. I feel like maybe I have a video that can help contribute for the first time to this Insight community, because the running issues of the contacts in the relay as another relay you should clean, I'm not sure if that's been discussed yet, you know, so maybe that's something that's actually new. That'd be super exciting if it is. But anyways, it doesn't even matter if it is. We are on the path to having a good running Insight with a good suspension. I'm still going to buy 2 more tires. I'm still on those ancient, you know, cracked, terrible tires that in the very first episode I was afraid would blow up on me. I'm going to replace those, you know, eventually. And then O2 sensor, I'm going to make a video, see if I can bring it back to life with a torch. We'll see. But anyways, thank you for watching. Whatever parts come in first will be the next video. And I really believe that cumulative efforts of all the contact cleaning, the parts replacement, everything back to the throttle body cleaning, every single thing. When I say it has helped, you know, how it runs, I mean, I'm serious about that. It's all cumulatively benefited how this thing runs and how easy it is to maintain speed and have great fuel economy. This is the fuel economy meter from my perspective. Great fuel economy. That's for your perspective. So anyways, again, thanks for watching. Y'all be good. I'll catch you next time when I get some parts in.